What's good, guys? Your boy Xandre here with another episode of 21 Perspectives Healing Through Transparency. Um, so tonight is a very important part of my story. So some of you guys probably saw the captions, and if you didn't, I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail before I introduce the guests. So let me be transparent with you guys real quick. I was living a double life. I was tied up with a lot of situationships, indulging in anything that can possibly fill a void in me to not deal with my own personal issues in life. So I had to let go of the music industry at the time. I was doing okay. I wasn't, I wasn't about to blow up or anything, but I did have a big of a fan base, and I had to literally leave all of that just to make sure that I'm, walking in the walk with Christ. So so much to the point that I was so serious about it, I literally gave up my music career, and I was just like, God, like, I want to just do this music thing for you. So if it's not my will, that this music is not working out and I'm not meant to be an artist, then so be it. I'll figure it out later. So I gave up my music career, and I just constantly felt like the unction to just start writing. And I tried writing, and for some reason, every single time I tried writing, I just kept cussing my songs. I'm just like, man, like this thing seems impossible. I can't go by one verse without cursing. And so uh, I was on Instagram, so I came across a hashtag, and I can't remember exactly. I think the hashtag was like hip hop or something like that. And then I'm scrolling through. You ever just scroll and you're just like lost in your scrolling? You're just like, why am I even scrolling on this list? But for some reason, I felt like I was meant to be on that hashtag. So I kept scrolling, and then I came across this one girl, and and she just had like she had them dreads. Them dreads was laid. She had a head wrap on. She was singing and rapping. I'm like, yo, who is this? Like Lauren Hill 2.0. Like I'm just like, this is crazy. I gotta connect with her. It was just just seeing the songs she was spitting and seeing like you can hear how it was still hip hop, but you can just tell that it was reflecting Christ. So I was like, I gotta connect with her. So I reached in her inbox, um, and I believe I asked something like, what was it? I have it in my notes here. 1 second. I was like, I see you're a Christian artist, and you're really dope. How do you come up with your lyrics? Um, and I'm paraphrasing what she said, but she was saying something along the line of, I don't know, I read the Bible. And so, to make a long story short, I took her advice. Later that day, I went to read the Bible like she said, and I came across two different verses. And all I remember from that time on was renew your mind, and I will make it happen. Those are the two phrases that God gave me. Until that day, literally until this day, that's when like it came to me. Like it was bothering me all day too. I'm like, oh God, I put it in my status, I put it in my captions in my Instagram post. I'm like, you got to give me the verse, man. Like I'm like, there's no way I can just tell the story without you giving it to me. So it came to me earlier this morning, and so I went into the Bible app. I typed in exactly what he told me: renew your mind, and I came across Romans 12:2, and then I typed, I will make it happen. And I'm gonna reveal you when I tell you guys the number. If you guys are fans of my music, you'll know why this is gonna go. It's gonna seem crazy. So so Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Now the second one was a story of Jesus healing the blind. And so quickly, I'm gonna run through it. It says, after Jesus left the girl's home, two blind men followed along behind him, shouting, "Son of David, have mercy on us." They went right into the house where he was staying, and Jesus asked them, "Do you believe I can make you see?" "Yes, Lord," they told him, "we do." Then he touched their eyes and said, "Because of your faith, it will happen." And that is Matthew chapter 9, verse 29. And that's the song that came literally the very next morning to me, was 9 to 9, which became what it was. So literally because of my faith, I was able to write my first Christian hip hop song, which took off, and here we are today. And I'm about to introduce you to my guest that changed my whole entire perspective on music, and that is Shawna Cain. Shawna, welcome.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me, Xandre. That is crazy.
Yes, it is.
That is crazy. I didn't even know that whole story till I read your caption, and then now I got some more
Mm,
insight to it. So that is a blessing, man.
yeah.
God's divine timing. Thank you for having me.
Yes, definitely. No problem. So let's get to it. So walk us through your journey of like when you found Christ. Yeah. So before you found Christ, when you found Christ, like, what was your defining moment? A defining moment I call is like when you have an out of body experience, kind of just like the moment you came to your senses and like, yo, what am I doing with my life? I need to get on track. And you basically took it serious from that point on, and kind of just walk us through the process from that point on into the way the EP that you dropped.
Hmm.
And yeah, and we'll get into it.
Okay, so yes, so I had an encounter with God, and it was out of my expectations. It happened a night where I went to a church service. I used to smoke weed heavily, drink heavily, and I was gonna smoke that night. And something told me, now I know it's Holy Spirit, told me like, don't smoke tonight, don't smoke tonight. And I went to the church service, and I just had an encounter with God. And basically when I went up to the altar, there was an altar call, and I was like, I'm not going. Like, I'm just gonna sit. Let me just take a seat. Don't move. And I just felt like a jolt. Something just took me out of my seat, and I went to the altar. And the pastor there told me things that I was thinking in my mind through God's spirit. And when he said those things, I just started to break down, and I started to think like, wow, God actually knows the inside of me. But I just thought that God was there watching me, you just serve him when you get older. I didn't know that he had an actual relationship with me. He actually knew me before I even knew him. And yeah, I just had that encounter where I knew that in that moment I had to make a decision. I knew that if I did not make a decision to follow Christ that day, to follow God, then I was going to be in danger. I just felt like I was going to die if I didn't choose God in that moment. And after that moment, God just began to really show me who I was. He really took time to teach me, and really inspired me to read the Bible and to watch videos on YouTube, look up anything I could about this new information about me being worthy, me being allowed to receive love from God. I thought I had to do all these things to get right with God, but I'm hearing all this new information, and I'm like, I need to know more. So I just looked on YouTube videos. I was reading the word and asking people questions, asking my family questions, and God began to allow me to write music through the suggestion of um, the pastor at the church. She was saying, I know you can sing. And I'm like, no, I can't. I was just shy. And she was just saying, I know you can sing, and I want you to try. Like, and so from that, I started practicing songs that I knew, Kirk Franklin songs, and then I started writing songs through the Holy Spirit. And yeah, God just allowed um, him to just give me songs. And after that, I showed my dad what I was doing, and he had experience in the music business. So he said, we're going to record it. And it just became a whole project that God gave me.
Wow. Okay. Um, so let's dig into some of that.
Mhm.
So you said you were gonna smoke weed that night. So did you ever come to
Yeah.
learn what the addictions were rooted in? Like, what was the root cause of your addictions?
Yeah. So I was addicted to smoking weed, addicted to drinking. Um, and the root of it was basically me trying to run away from myself, not wanting to deal with myself, the emotional part, the things that you have to go through and work out in yourself. And I didn't want to deal with that. I just wanted to be carefree. I didn't want to have to do the hard work it took to really unravel all the things that we keep inside. And every time I'd have an emotion, sad, happy, angry, anything, I would smoke, I would drink, because I didn't want to have to deal with it. And I was basically running from myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what exactly were you dealing with? Because I want people to be able to relate to your situation.
Mhm.
Like, how did you see life at that point compared to the way you see it now?
Yeah. So at that point, I grew up in two different households. My parents split up when I was young, but I still had a really good childhood. Still was able to do a lot of things and be around great people, but um, it was rooted in, I guess, just the brokenness of the family home as well has an impact on the child. And just actually me growing up, I after high school I got into a relationship, and that relationship really, I really allowed myself to be changed in that relationship. I literally gave up myself for that relationship and just took on that person's character. I took on their habits, the way they talked, everything, and I started to lose myself. And that's when I really started drinking more, smoking more, because I thought that's what I needed to do in order to deal with these issues that I had. And a lot of the issues had to do with me just ignoring things and it just compiling together, feeling lonely, feeling abandoned, and all of these things. So it was really just covering up everything that I was dealing with, and especially going into that relationship being young, um, and really taking on someone else's character and having the wrong idea of what love is, and just allowing yourself to be trampled over and not taken for the gem that you are. A lot of times we allow people to do things to us, or even allow people to treat us in a way that's not at the standard that we were created to be. And that's what it was all rooted in.
Okay. And so I see that you mentioned the gem, and I know that's in your logo. So, what does it represent to you? Like, what does it mean?
Gem, yeah, the diamond, a gem, it just means, especially my logo, I have a gem that is put together by many different little pieces, and for me that represents being broken, being so many different pieces, but God forming you back together, and it's still looking beautiful, it's still having a purpose even after all of that. So that just reminds me that no matter what you've been through, no matter what things broke you or try to kill you, you can still be put back together piece by piece. And it takes time, but there is a beauty that comes with it when you're put back together. And that brings the value up even more, because it's like, wow, look at what has come through the turmoil, and you can come now and share your story and really help other people. So that gem really means to me something valuable that's not created by hands. We can't create diamonds with our hands. That's something that naturally happens. So we all have a natural course that we go through, but when we get put back together by God, or even when we just allow him to show us who we are, it really reveals the the capability, the magnificent gem that we are, basically.
I love that answer.
Man.
So, would you say that the rooted issue was that you didn't know self worth? Because I'm just hearing from what you're saying. You know, it seems like that's what it would sound like. Like you didn't know what self worth was because you found your value after you gave up the weed, the liquor, and you finally started, doing what God has literally called you to do. So, would you say that's what that is, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I would definitely say self-worth. And I think um when you don't know who you are, anything goes at that point, because you're going to be participating in things, you're going to be saying things that are not even a part of your character, because you don't know who you are, your self-worth. And I think that just comes with so many different factors. Um, and I think it's so important that we even speak these things into young children, and really teach them who they are, and speak life into them, because a lot of times I could say that, yeah, I got my ideas of who I am from TV, from all of these things. But when you have the word to tell you who you are, when you have people who can speak life into you, then there's a huge difference. So I believe self worth was a huge impact on my story, my journey, and doing things that were outside of my character, and thinking that I basically knew what was best for myself.
And so, what was your process like in, I guess, putting those pieces back together to understand your value in, and renewing your mind? Because, like, I know, so I don't know. So, was your experience like, you quit cold turkey, or was it just like it took you time to just quit, the addictions?
Yeah, for me, with weed, the day after, and I actually took a video of that.
Hmm.
The day after, God just like, he allowed me. He just said, "Throw it out," and I just threw out all my weed. And my friends are like, "Are you crazy? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you need to hand that over. And I'm like, no, none of us should have this. They're like, who are you? What happened to you? And but with alcohol, it took some time, and it was difficult. It's difficult because you're literally doing something outside of your old habits or outside of your old routine. It's a habit that you have. It's a routine, and in order to break that, God is definitely working with you, but there's things that He will give us along the way. He'll say, okay, you know what? Um, maybe don't drive that way home today because you're gonna pass the liquor store, and that could make you see it and want to go and talk to this person. Maybe call a friend when you're feeling like you really want to do something, you really want to drink. And it's not the reason why God tells us not to do these things is not just because He's trying to dictate us. It's because He's really giving us the tools to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And to be the best version of ourselves, we need to be totally available to hearing God's direction. So it takes time. It took time for me as well. And also a lot of mental habits that I had, bad habits, that it took time to renew the mind, change the way I thought.
Mhm. So what tools did you use besides the Bible? Because I mean, obviously we need the Bible, right, to get through.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
what were some practical, like, what does your day to day look like, in being intentional and trying to, repent and turn from your ways?
Yeah, my day to day really looked like I'm a very visual person, so I would just write myself notes and write myself truth, like, this is who you are now. You're worth it, and God wants to change your life, and all these things that would really speak life into me. And I would watch a lot of YouTube videos, people explaining, like, just basically how to grow in your walk. And I really desire to want to do something different. I wanted to make music. I wanted to work with kids. I wanted to learn more about health. So I think really looking to see what you're interested in really helps. Getting like, I don't want to say a hobby. Well, yeah, a hobby. I feel like a hobby is such a word that people just get a hobby, but you know what I mean. Like, get something that you're excited about, and sometimes it takes time to even find that, but do
Yep.
something that you're exciting about. Get to know yourself. I feel like it took me, I had to start to get to know myself, because my whole teenage years, I was getting to know everyone else but myself. So get to know yourself, watch a movie and just chill, and just do what you love to do what you enjoy doing. And that's what really helped me, working out, going to the gym, like, just starting to really know what drives you, what makes you happy, you know
Mhm.
yeah.
And how did you? So how did you? How did you know God was speaking to you? Because you said that you were at the church and you was getting ready to smoke weed, and then, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you heard the ladies just say something, and obviously, sometimes when the pastor is talking about you, like, how do you know? You know what I'm saying? But how do you know when God is speaking to you even now today? Like, do you see
Hmm.
patterns? There's like dreams, visions.
Yeah, for me, like, God, when He speaks to me, He speaks to me through people, especially my family. He will speak through them to speak to me, and they'll say something that I'm just like, yeah, that was God speaking, using them as a tool. And He also speaks to me through just thoughts, ideas. We have ideas, but a lot of the times it's like, that was a God idea. That couldn't have come from me,
Mm-hmm.
and just also feeling comfort. I believe that God really speaks to me in that comfort zone, and He really just allows, He just walks with me. I just hear Him speak to me in such a soft, subtle way that sometimes it's like you need to be still to hear God, or just in situations that happen. So there's so many different ways, and yeah, in dreams and stuff like that. And God speaks to us in different ways. So just because someone may have dreams and visions, or God might speak to them in a certain way, that doesn't mean that you're not hearing God. It just means that God may speak to you in a different way, in the way that He knows that you will receive it. Because we're all we all learn differently. I'm visual. Someone might be a person that has to write things out. So everyone has that unique kind of attachment with Christ and how He speaks to us.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So did you ever have like a moment of rage, like So like, did you ever have a moment where you just spazzed out on God? Like, man, I'm tired of this. Like, I can't take this no more. Nothing like that ever. No.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, well, this is
I'm
supposed to be
like,
different.
I'm like, no, I did. And, because I had moments like that because I thought that what I wanted was what should happen right in this moment. And it really happens in moments when I can't see what God is seeing. And there's a verse in the Bible, I believe it's in Second Peter, and it talks about being nearsighted and not being able to see far. And I think that is the root of it. When I get angry, I'm like, God, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Like, he just really encourages you. And the Bible always talks about how the testing of our faith produces patience, and how he's bringing us through a process, right? So we have, in order to become who we're supposed to become, it's going to take some pushing and pulling. But the good thing is that God doesn't run away from that. He knows. He's like, it's like dealing with a toddler or a little kid. It's like, man, they're trying to fight you, they don't want to do things, but you know what's right for them. You're just trying to take care of them, you're trying to love them, but they're kicking and screaming. And sometimes we're like toddlers, when the way that we react to God. But he'll never leave us. He'll always say, come back to me, just come back to me. And that's the thing that's so amazing, because no other little g God can ever present that to us, will ever stay with us that long. So it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your interview with Team A, you had said that you wouldn't change a thing if you had a chance to go back in time and fix it. So not fixing, but what would you tell Shawna then as a Shawna now?
Man, that's good. I would I would tell the old Shawna that there's so much more inside of you that God wants to show you, that you don't have to stay like this, and it's never too late. It's never too late. And I also want to say that to anyone else who needs to hear that it's never too late. I think sometimes we think that we messed ourselves up so much that it's like, oh man, I can never turn this around, or I'm way too messed up. But there's no such thing as way too messed up. If you're still breathing, there's still a chance, there's still time. And yeah, I think that this world is really set up for us to be so distracted. So we don't really get to know ourselves. We don't really take that time because we're conditioned to like focus on everything else. So I would say take time to get to know yourself. I think that's so important, because when you get to know yourself, you get to know your creator, because he's the only one we can go to really know ourselves. So that's what I would say.
And two more questions. So, what was the biggest stumbling block for you throughout this whole process of renewing your mind? Like, what was one thing that you just had like a hard time like just getting over, and how did you get through
Yeah. Yeah, man. One thing that was really hard for me is negative thinking, and just literally combating every single good thought, every single good opportunity. It's like right away, man, that's not going to happen. Like, that's too hard. Just as soon, right away, a negative thought. And I had to really take inventory of my thoughts and realize that there's something working against me. That's why, and those negative thoughts, you start to act on it. You start to believe it. And then your performance is even different. And not just performance in terms of music, but your performance in life, the way you walk, the way you talk is different, because you're believing these negative thoughts. So that's something that really, truly was a struggle. And it still is something that God is continuously teaching me, like, think this way, think this way. And that also leads to anxiety and everything, because you're so much in fear. And the way that God really showed me, there's a verse that in James, it says that a man that is double-minded is unstable in all his ways.
it?
And that verse really touched me, because it's like, double-minded is you're in faith and you're in doubt at the same time, and your brain literally cannot compute that.
Yeah,
It's meltdown.
yeah.
right? Like it's meltdown. So then I realized, wow, that's why there's been moments of meltdown because my brain's literally trying to figure out, like, what do you believe? Like
What do you want?
this or that? Like, what are you doing? So I realized, wait, I'm not crazy. I'm just, I'm just, I'm just, it's just instability because you're in faith and doubt at the same time. And I think the word is so powerful in the fact that it uses those words, unstable, because sometimes we feel unstable, but it's like, it's because you're in fear and doubt at the same time. So just choose one, but choose faith, and trust God and really just wrap yourself in his embrace, man. It takes time. Every day we're growing, literally. Every day. Every
And
day.
you're saying takes time. So if if I don't know if you know it off the time frame off the top of your head, but how long would you say it's been since you've like turned away and all this stuff God has been blessing you with and all that? How long has it been?
Since I really began a true relationship with Christ, it's been about 3 years. 2017. Is that 4 years?
Uh,
Yeah, that's 4 years.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, the end of this
got me
year,
feeling
it'll
like I
be
don't know my
four
math
years.
either. Yeah,
No,
that's
the end of this year, it'll be 4 years.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Bless you, Clinita.
Yeah,
Yes.
they may forget my question.
Right.
You good? You good?
God's gonna bring it back.
Yes, he is. He actually did. So, what's one fun fact your audience does not know about you?
Oh man, they always bring this question in school, and I'm like, I don't even know.
But
One fact.
you was earning yourself. So, what's one
Jeez.
fun thing?
Okay. One fun fact, man. Um, One fun fact is that I'll just say that I like drinking herbal teas. I like knowing about health, wellness. I love health and everything. So yeah, I love herbal teas, and I can drink the most bitter tea,
Man,
and
that's
I'll be fine.
because that's crazy. I
That's great.
can't.
Yeah, I could drink basically anything like at this point.
What's the
I'm good.
craziest bitter tea you have drank so far?
Oh man, I can't even remember the names, man. There's some Chinese herbal teas
Oh,
that
you
my
know.
friends, they be laughing at me because it looks like bark. It looks like
Yeah, nah, I'm good.
yeah, they be laughing at me, but they're very strong. But it's good for the body.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I believe
Body, I
that.
tell the body.
Hey.
Hey.
So I do have a question. This is my like I just want to know at least. What is your favorite song on the whole track, the whole EP?
Oh, my
You got
favorite song. Wow. My favorite song, I'm gonna say I Am a Spirit on your shirt right there.
because I'm
Thank
wearing
you
it.
for representing, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Spirit because it's a song that I wrote when I was really dealing with the process of stop of quitting drinking and all those stuff. And I had to keep reminding myself, like, I'm a spirit, I live in a body, and remind myself all these things because it was a struggle. And I had to remind myself these things, continuously say it to myself over and over again, and really express those truths in the word. So I think I really love that song. I thank God for allowing me to be a part of it because it's really a strengthening song. It's a motto, it's a mantra
Yeah.
to keep repeating in your mind. So I think that's my favorite song for that aspect of it, of really some new information that's like, what? Yeah. In terms of it, knowing God for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So I'm gonna open up for Q&A. Do anybody have any questions before I close? So how did you do it? Let's start with that.
Right,
How did you
right.
deal with
Yeah.
self doubt and fear?
Yeah. Hey, good night, Rebecca. Um, yeah, so the self-doubt and fear, it really takes time, but it takes the way that I dealt with it and still dealing with it is by asking God to show me every time it comes up. Just say, God, like, show me every time doubt and fear comes up. And, when I look at Jesus's ministry and him being on this earth, he was like, when people doubted, he was like, how long do I have to be with you guys? Like, How long do I have to be with you guys for? You guys have been walking with me for this long and you're still doubting. And that really, it gave me comfort because I said, wow, these men were walking with Jesus, seeing him do miracles, and they still had that doubt. They still had fears. They still had times where they were like not fully seeing God in the way they wanted to see him. So the first thing is to see that it's not something that is unique to you, that it's not something that God can't heal, God can't work with. God can still work with you. God can still work with us in the self-doubt. And so to ask God every time it comes up, and to really, when it does come up, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hurtful, because you're gonna, sometimes you feel like, man, I did it again. But it's just another step. It's just a part of the process, and it will happen less times every time. But to really take inventory of every time it happens and ask yourself, like, why did I do that? So it's like homework, really taking that inventory. And that's a process that I've been going through as well. So I think just really talking it out with yourself and talking it out with God, and really, it's hurtful to see how many times we do it, but it's like, just going through that process step by step, and realizing that nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with me. It's just a part of this process of getting that out, getting the doubt out, because doubt chokes the seed. It chokes what God is trying to do, what God is trying to grow in us.
Rebecca's ready. It's oh, it worked. Okay.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, Shawna.
Hey, good night. Thanks for your awesome question.
I had a question.
No, it was the other Rebecca.
I just discovered how to work the thing.
She's just like, what's going on?
Oh, the other Rebecca.
Yeah, the other Rebecca, Rebecca Alexandra.
My hair is messed up. Yeah. But,
oh my gosh.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
But I can't see me, so I don't know if I look crazy or not.
That is funny.
You're good.
You look great.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. We cool.
Right. Go ahead, Joy. Ask your question.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Hey, Shawna. This is a dope combo. I work with youth a lot. So I wanted to know, what would you say to this generation about like recreational use of drugs and alcohol? It seems to be pretty widely accepted, especially since like weed is being legalized in like a lot of different states and stuff. And so sometimes that's like a question that comes up often with the teens. And so like, I just want to know, like, what do you tell, younger people who find that reliance, exactly what you were talking about, like they find their reliance and they find that coping in other things, just, I don't know, as a word of encouragement to them?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, Joy. Thank you so much for that. I used to be one of those people who were arguing back and forth with my dad about weed and how it's natural. So it's fine for me to smoke and all these things. And one thing I would say is that when we look at successful people, a lot of young people, they want to be successful. They want to have the jewelry. They want to have the bling. They want to have, what these rappers have and certain things like that, some of them. So I would say, like, you got to look at the businessmen of this world and the way that they move. They're not distracted with these things in their mind and having these things control you, because even though we think that we are using weed, we are using these substances, those substances are really using us. They're really making us spend our money, spend our time, giving our valuable mind space. Everything about you is so valuable, and we're allowing this thing to come into our valuable space, and I would just encourage them to really, really question themselves about it, really question why, and to really try something different than what they're used to. Because sometimes when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you're expecting a different result in your life, you can't get a different result if you're just doing the same thing over and over again. So I would just really pose a question of, who do you really want to be? And if you want to be that person, there are certain things in your life that that need to change. But I wouldn't say it in that way because change just seems so hard. But there's certain characteristics about that person who you're going to become that need the fullness of you. So not to basically give your precious time, your precious mind space to weed and all of these things. So kind of in that way, and really encourage them and not just discourage them to say it's bad, it's horrible, but to really question them. Like, who do you want to be?
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem, Joy. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate that question.
Yeah,
so
that was
Becca
amazing.
said, did you ever deal with not being able to forgive yourself for something you did in the past?
Yes. Hey, Rebecca. So I definitely, that was Rebecca, right? That's the question. Okay, yes. So definitely, Rebecca, I dealt with that a lot of times, and whew, it's heavy because you're looking at the situation and saying, God, I shouldn't have done this. Why did I do that to myself? Why did I allow myself to get in that situation? But the thought that really comforts me is that everything that happened had to happen in order for us to become who we are today. And sometimes I even look at the friends I made, some of the clubs, the parties, the situations, the dangerous situations I put myself into. Now there's people that I met in those places that now get to hear the testimony, that now get to hear the switch, the change. And our lives are really to give glory to God. So even though, we may have done things that we regret, the power is in the change now. And we're new creatures, we're new creations in Christ. So the times do come, but I just try to remember that everything happens in order for us to become who we truly are supposed to be. It's all working for us. What one of the things that Xandre said about this event. Hey, Ardell.
Yeah. I hope we answered your question, Rebecca.
Yeah.
And if we
Hopefully,
didn't,
I answered your question.
yeah. If we didn't, let us know. And Josh said, she said, thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, blessings.
Josh says, amen. I used to smoke weed so much to the point the weed was smoking me. Yeah, man.
Woo!
Man, that's bars right
Bars, Josh.
there.
That's a
And
bar.
I wasn't even conscious anymore. I would literally wake up high and go to bed high because it's all I knew. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's serious, man. It's serious. It's serious. And I think like a lot of times we sit in a habit, we're used to one way and it's hard to switch if we don't think it's possible. Yeah, that's deep, Josh.
Yeah, man. I always say like when it comes to strongholds, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't let go of strongholds, they're gonna end up holding you. They're gonna have a stronghold on you, and it's gonna be hard to break them. So that's fact.
Yeah, so stronghold. Yes,
Hope I'm pronouncing your
exactly.
name right. It says Clinetta. Um, if I'm saying it wrong, please correct me. But it says she said, "What was your turning point to change and repent?"
Yeah. My turning point to change and repent really had nothing to do with me. It was more of God saying like, if you do not change your life tonight, you're gonna die. That's the message I got.
Okay.
It was like that. It was like, if you do not come to me tonight, and that's just from my situation because of the situations I was putting myself into. It's like, if you don't come to me tonight, something's gonna happen to you and you're gonna die. And I need you to open your mind, open your eyes, and take your life seriously. So that was really the turning point. I had to be like, wow. I think for me, I really thought I was invincible. I really thought
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna
Same
die.
here,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. That's facts.
Wow. So you felt that way too?
Yeah, I
Kind
got
of?
humbled real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, like I felt like you don't ever wake up and say, I might die today. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Yeah.
you hear people in accidents on the news, they never woke up and thought that was gonna happen.
Right. Yeah.
So as humans, we just go through our day, but we think we're invincible. Nothing's gonna happen. But I think Canetta said something else. Was it in a dream? No, it was actually just when I went to a church service, and it was kind of like it was happening, but nobody else really seen that internal conversation that was happening, but I just felt like, you know, the presence of God and the presence of like hell literally there, like, you know, that's the path you're gonna go down if you don't go with me. So that was the turning point. It was kind of like a wake up. That.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oof, okay. Yeah. You guys have any other questions before I close out? I know some of you came in kind of late, so you kind of missed up on the conversation, but yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for coming in, and
I appreciate everyone being here tonight.
yeah, thank you.
All right, so if you guys have no more other questions, I'm gonna close out. I do have some, so I'm usually quiet on these things. Like I usually just ask a few questions, and God just leads. And literally, the guest speaker would have so much to say that it's not necessary for me to say anything. But he did have a word for me tonight for people that will be here tonight. So if you're here, it's for a reason. I don't usually do this. You can ask Rebecca; she's usually here for almost all of them. Um, so yeah. God usually has a pattern of showing me like a Bible verse before the call, and so he gave me a verse for Shawna, at least to outline like the whole story. And the verse that God gave me tonight was Psalms 37:23. It says, "The Lord directs the steps of the godly; He delights in every detail of their lives." So now matching both of our stories and how we met and the things that has happened for us since, I was given a word to share tonight in closing, and that the word was prepare. Prepare the same way the widow in 2 Kings and 4 did. So if you guys don't know the story about the widow in 2 Kings and 4, it was a widow with I think Elijah was the messenger that came. I'm not gonna go into the whole story, so that's just for your reading. 2 Kings and 4, I'm putting in the chat. You guys can read up on it after this whole call. But so yeah, so for whoever's in this room, I'm reading from my notes because I had wrote it down the moment that God gave it to me. For whoever's in this room that this is for and or can relate to this topic, I have things I want to highlight. The reason why you're frustrated with your expectations is because you're not renewing your mind. The reason why it's hard for you to renew your mind is because God can only bless who you are and not who you pretend to be. I couldn't be presented I couldn't be presented as an artist for Christ when I couldn't turn away from my ways. So we literally had to let somebody in. Me and Shawna, we literally had to turn away from our ways to be able to see all of what has happened for us so far. So quick backstory, some of you guys don't know about my story. Was molested by four of my cousins at the age of 9. Age 11, I lost my best friend to suicide. Age 12, I was reintroduced to suicide by my mother. Um, Age 13 and 14, I contemplated doing suicide. Age 15, I was diagnosed with something called Crohn's disease. At the time I was diagnosed with it, I was 160 pounds. Within a matter of weeks, I went down to 115. And from age 17 to 23, it was mostly fighting for my life. It was about 115 pounds, 110. Age 23, I finally hit my lowest, and it was 90 pounds. And so I just remember having a defining moment. I was there on my bed, and I was just praying to God, like, asking God, like, why am I going through all of this? Why am I facing all these stuff in life? And I did not know if I was going to wake up later that night. I had an encounter with God. I made a promise to him. I was like, God, if you heal me from this, I promise you, wherever I go, I'll share my testimony. So after that, I went to sleep that night, and I don't know if I was going to wake up. So I woke up later that night, told my mom what I was feeling, and I've told what I was feeling at that moment now. And what I was feeling at that moment now, I felt like I had a hole in my back. I felt like I was bleeding internally. So we immediately went to the ER. Went to the ER. They injected me with something to stop the pain. Then I remember seeing the surgery table. Then went to sleep. Then I woke up. When I woke up, there was 3 doctors standing right in front of me. They asked me, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Well, I feel great. It's the first time in years I haven't felt any type of pain." And they were like, "Good. We're glad to hear that." You're like, if you didn't come in the night that you came in, we would not be having this conversation. And they had removed 7 inches of my small intestines, and that's where the disease was found at. Um, so I had hope. I was like, okay, I'm here. God gave me a second chance, so now I can just go out there and tell my testimony. But I started living a double life, and while I was living that double life, I encountered Shawna through Instagram, and I just had trouble writing songs, like songs without cursing. So after speaking with Shawna, she introduced me to the two Bible verses of Romans 12 and 2 about renewing your mind. And I came across another one, which was Matthew's 9:29. And that's when the story about the blind man and how God literally just healed the blind man because he asked and he had faith to see. So I was able to see things differently, and I named the song 9 to 9. And when I named the song 9 to 9, God has literally made a way for me for it. Like it's insane. Like I won Rapzilla. If you guys know what Rapzilla is, it's the biggest Christian hip hop blog right now. And I won Rapzilla's hottest pick of the week. Um, After I think like 3 months in, God sent two guys all the way from Omaha, Nebraska, just to come in and shoot the music video for free. It cost me nothing. All I had to do was help them find a plane tickets and everything. And we shot that music video, and today it's at like 30,000 views, 260,000 plays, and it's just sometimes random people from like all over the country are hitting me up saying, "Yo, man, I'm still listening to the song. It's doing something to my spirit." I'm just hearing testimonies like crazy. But um, so all that, so I even that's all happening at the time of me living a double life, and the only reason I feel like I don't know. The only reason why I feel like things didn't work out the way it needed to is because I didn't turn from my ways completely, and I later found out, I had a lot of unforgiveness. So to paint the picture, just a little more. So at the time that I literally was at the doctor's office, and I gained my health back already and everything. I had went up to like 130 pounds at the time. I was living a double life. So when I didn't tell my testimony, I ended up losing a lot of weight. That weight loss went down to I was 130 pounds and it went down right back to 115. I ended up losing my health insurance. Ended up losing the weight. Everything just started crashing down, man. And I just remember just like being like, dang, okay, I messed up bad. Like, God kept his promise, but I didn't keep mine. So, um, yeah. So from age 23 now, I was back at 90 pounds, fighting for my life just until I would say it's February. So, maybe 6 months ago, I was 28, 27, turned 28, and I went down to 80 pounds. And that was the lowest I've ever been. And I just remember asking God, like, all right, well, you still have me here for a reason. I'm 80 pounds at 28. Doctors are looking at me like, how are we still having this conversation? And I didn't have an answer for them. So I was just like, I don't know. God just sent me here to you. And I just feel like you have an answer for me in all this crazy situation I'm dealing with. And um, so yeah, the lady ended up recommending me some type of treatment. I went through the process, and she told me, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're gonna need a lot of prayer for this, and because you need about 10 of these treatments, and each of them cost $10,000. And I was just like, okay, well, God, I don't know how in the world this is gonna happen, but you sent me here, so there's gonna be a way. So, long story short, after a lot of prayer and fasting and everything, God made a way. They approved of it, and I'm speaking to you today at 150 pounds, almost at my weight. But I had to learn a big thing, and that was unforgiveness. I had a lot of unforgiveness in my life. I had to forgive my molesters. I had to forgive my best friend for killing himself. I had to forgive myself for thinking I had anything to do with it. I had to forgive my mom, which was a big part of this whole story. Um, she had gave me a lot of verbal abuse at the time that I was dealing with it, and yeah, so she had to deal with a lot of. I dealt with a lot of verbal abuse. She would say stuff like, "I hate you. I wish you were never born. You caused me stress. Stop calling me by my name." Um, a lot of stuff, man. And just to paint the picture, to be a little more transparent with you guys, I would deal with stuff like they had left the house one time, and I literally, being really sick and ill, I had to crawl to the kitchen to get something to eat. And when I was crawling to the kitchen to get something to eat, I came across an envelope on the floor, and it was a letter. It was like a letter with life insurance and my name on it. So they were preparing for my death while I was actually preparing for my testimony. So yeah, man. And after I finally forgave for all of that, I wrote a song. So that poem, I think I skipped it. I didn't even say this part. I wrote a poem. It was an open suicide letter to my mom at the time, and that poem became my latest single called Sharpshooter. And Sharpshooter today has about 1.6 million views on TikTok, and Lecrae even reached out to me in regards to it. But none of that would have ever happened if I did not forgive. So, leading into my point of tonight and this whole message of prepare, I'm gonna leave you some. I'm gonna give you some practical steps, but just know that the message is prepare. So the first one is evaluate where you've been. Take inventory, like self-assess, and ask God to show you, or ask yourself, what has happened to me in 2020 and continued even now in 2021. So I need you to start acknowledging your past habits, because once you acknowledge those past habits, they will then reveal the cycles that you're currently in. And cycles start because nobody from your bloodline has acknowledged the past and did anything about it. So, for example, I've been dealing with XYZ, and then after you write that out, you're going to say, I declare stops with me. And once you declare it, prepare for it. Because the thing about the widow, when you're going to learn this in the story from 2 Kings and 4, it says the widow acknowledges her past. She was saying to, when God has sent Elijah to help her, who is the person who's going to help her prepare for the breakthrough, kind of like the situation right now. She said her husband's dead. She has debt, and they were about to take her kids from her, because back then, if you owed debt to the government, they took your kids as like slavery, into slavery. So she had to pay the government back, and so what she had to do was confess that to the guy that came to her, the stranger, and she was just saying that it was hard, it was embarrassing, but that was her truth. And when you tell the truth, that's when the release happens. So God works in the spirit and the truth. When you walk in the spirit and the truth, the renewing of your mind happens. God can only change where you're at, and when you're honest about, and He can only change where you're at, and when you're honest about where you're at. So not doing things like venting on social media, trying to throw shade, because not everybody wants to see you win anyway. Find spiritual accountability, a godly community, and confess those things to them and get the support that you need. So you could have things like character issues, or it could be unforgiveness, like I had. It could be trauma, it could be lust. I mean, honestly, only you know exactly what I'm talking about right now, and it's probably flowing through your mind right now as we speak. Um, so the key to renewing your mind is self-awareness. The second thing, you have to realize where you are right now. So be self-aware. When you're not self-aware, we're not telling ourselves where we are. So we end up telling the GPS, telling God, right, the wrong directions while we're trying to get somewhere else. So it kind of reminded me of the Garden of Eden after they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God asks, where are you? Not literally, but mentally, because he already knew where you are. Like, he knew He's God. He knows everything. But Adam and Eve responded with the truth, and that's what set them free. Even though they had some consequences, but that's what set them free nonetheless. So when you're unaware, you're in the dark, and when you are aware, you're in the light. Um, the most important work the most important work that we will do every day is the renewing of our minds. This is how we keep the light on. When you believe that your destiny is to develop the mind of Christ, you will start to understand why life is so challenging. Um, it's the flesh that desires more, not the spirit. We are naturally designed to do less so that God can do more. We experience this exact craving when we fast. So I don't know if you guys ever fasted or anything like that, but when we start fasting, you start having some real cravings, and that's not your spirit, that's your flesh. Because as you continue and you start defeating the flesh, you start to notice that the spirit just is not, you're just not as hungry anymore. So the renewing of the mind is the transformation that happens when the spirit, aka your soul, finally takes control of the areas that the flesh had control over. And that is the performance of light being found in the darkness. So again, everyone, prepare this year. That's just the word that God's keep constantly been showing me, is to prepare. Um, Prepare the same way the lady in Second Kings and 4 did. The blessings that God is about to do isn't in receiving it; it's blessing what you already have available. Once He starts the renewing process, so learn where you are right now, prepare for where you want to be, and what you want to have. And I promise you, by next year, and honestly, at even any given point leading to it, God is going to keep pouring until all of the empty vessels are full. He's going to heal. He's going to heal where you can't see, the same way he has healed the blind. And I'm only telling you this because I was once that blind man in that story, and that's how I gained this perspective. I can send you guys these notes if you need it. I wasn't able to take it down, but I'm gonna close out and say, Shawna, thank you for being a light in the time that I was in darkness. I'm honored to know you and to call you my friend. I hope everyone has a new perspective after tonight. I can't wait to hear the testimonies and the breakthroughs that's going to come from this. So thank you all for your time. And yeah, this was Healing Through Transparency. Have a good night, y'all. Peace.